Hello, everyone. Welcome to this InfoReady Peer Spotlight webinar with Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center. I hope this Thursday, June 6th, is treating you well. We have a great webinar for you today with a very interesting topic and some great presenters. So before we get into the story, into this great learning session today, I have a few schedule and logistics to go over. So the webinar you're joining says scheduled for an hour. We've got about 30 minutes with the presenters from TTU HSC and about 30 minutes for Q&A with you. So your phones are muted. If you have questions, please submit them using the Q&A Zoom tool, and then we'll answer anything that comes in. So the webinar is being recorded, and we'll be sending the recording after the webinar. So if you want to use that, share it with your colleagues, you'll have a link to share with them. Additionally, there's a survey that launches after the webinar ends. So it'll just open a tab in your browser, and if you'd be so kind as to fill that out, we would appreciate that. Lastly, there is a poll that's open right now, just asking you some upfront information about how you're using InfoReady. And it's really quick, just 2 questions, and then submit it, and we move on. Now, a little bit more information about InfoReady. So the platform is a great tool that pulls in all different types of pieces of your process together into one system. And you'll hear a little bit about that today on today's webinar. So you can collect forms of all types, have the reviewers in there reviewing the data, track progress reports, make the decisions in here, collect, export data for more higher level reporting, because sometimes your boss or your boss's boss wants to know what was going on. And so the system does a great job of having all of that data in one place, having all the different stakeholders come in and provide that information and being able to export it and manage the process. And so those general functionality and ways to use the system can be applied in so many different ways. And on screen here, we have several different use cases that you can use InfoReady for. You'll notice that they run the gambit across the institution. Different types of units, different types of processes. They're competitive workflows or non-competitive workflows all over the place. For students, for faculty, even for staff. And we'll share this document with folks after the fact. You don't have to memorize this list of 4 dozen different processes in the moment. Now, I would love to introduce our panelists from Texas Tech Health Sciences Center today. You have a couple of them on screen. You have me on the right. Firstly, I'd like to introduce to you Audrey De Leon. She's a program director of research collaboration in the TTU HSC Office of Research and Innovation. So Audrey is a program director in the Division of Research, Innovation, Collaboration, and Entrepreneurship. She's been there since August 2023. So Audrey's role helps facilitate collaboration between researchers across multiple programs, schools, and even campuses. She also oversees programs that encourage networking, idea sharing, and identifying tools for success in order to strengthen the research ecosystem for junior and senior faculty, students, and staff alike. We also have Jordan Neighbors. Jordan is the Director of Corporate and Foundation Relations in the TTU HSC Office of Research Innovation. So a couple different groups here. Jordan serves as the Director of CFR, focusing on research-related initiatives within her unit. And as the central hub for research industry partnerships, Jordan plays a key role in connecting vibrant research communities with dynamic industry partners. Through strategic collaboration, Jordan ensures impactful engagement that drives transformative advancements in research. So thank you for joining us today. You're doing a lot of important work on campus, connecting folks, making things happen. And people aren't here to hear me today. They're here to hear you. And so I'm going to turn it over to you. It's your show now, Audrey and Jordan. Jordan, you first.
Thank you, Carlos and Rhonda and the InfoReady team for having us. As Carlos mentioned, I'm Jordan Neighbors. I'm Director of Corporate and Foundation Relations here at Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center. As Carlos touched on, my primary function is working with faculty to secure funding and partnerships to support research. So I focus on forging relationships with private foundations and companies that invest in research activities, as well as special federal funding opportunities that involve institutional-wide collaboration. I play a big role in identifying funding opportunities, sharing them with our research community, and identifying specific faculty that fit the criteria of each opportunity, making sure that we're submitting quality proposals. This often entails writing, editing, and reviewing proposals and communicating with the company or foundation so that our interests align. I'm going to begin with an overview of our institution and really an overview of the Texas Tech University system, where Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center, or TTU HSC, is a part of. So TTU HSC is one of 5 independent institutions in the Texas Tech system. We're one of 2 dedicated to healthcare. We have Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center Lubbock, where Audrey and I sit. It was established in 1969. And then we have a sister institution, Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center El Paso, founded in 2013. We're both committed to training the next generation of health professionals and delivering world-class patient care to the people of West Texas. The other 3 institutions are Texas Tech University, which is also in Lubbock, and that's our main undergraduate campus. And then we have 2 other institutions, Angelo State University, located in San Angelo, and Midwestern State University, located in Wichita Falls. So a total of 5 under the TTU system. And as I mentioned, Audrey and I are part of the Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center here in Lubbock. We are a Hispanic serving institute. We are also recognized as a Carnegie classified special focus 4-year research institution, and we are continuously growing. We're proud to share that we've successfully achieved a 25% increase in NIH funding over the 2022 fiscal year, and we continue to grow. The Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center has 5 different campuses. We are located in Abilene, Texas, Amarillo, Dallas, Fort Worth, Lubbock, and Midland, Odessa. So Lubbock serves as the hub, with each campus acting like a spoke. And the entire system throughout these 5 campuses services a territory covering 108 counties. So basically 1/2 of Texas, and 65 of which are designated medically underserved, and primarily rural. We are a leader. Texas Tech Health Sciences Center is a leader in is the leading provider of healthcare graduates in the state of Texas. And within the institution, the Health Sciences Center, we have 6 schools: School of Medicine, School of Nursing, School of Pharmacy, School of Health Professions, the School of Population and Public Health, and their Graduate School of Biomedical Sciences. And these 6 schools are distributed throughout our 5 campuses. So as Carlos mentioned, both Audrey and I are located in the Office of Research and Innovation, where we serve these 6 schools And within the Office of Research and Innovation, led by our Senior Vice President of Research, Dr. Lance McMahon, are 4 divisions. You can now go to the next slide, Carlos. Thank you. We have RICE, where Audrey is located, the Research, Innovation, Collaboration, Entrepreneurship Division. We have our Laboratory Animal Resources Center, the LARC, our Office of Sponsored Programs, OSP, and the Research Integrity Office, RIO. I currently I really work with all 4 of these divisions, and I currently fall within just finance and administration, but I work very, very closely with RICE and OSP, and the other units, as well as the Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center, TTU HSC. That's our acronym. Our Advancement or Development Office. I'm also work very closely with them. Next slide. So some of the challenges, I would say at HSC and the Office of Research and Innovation experience is the different schools, the different campuses, depending on where our faculty are located. Some of them do not have administrative support when submitting grants. So Audrey and I support faculty on submissions on many different levels. I specifically focus on the cultivation of private foundations and companies, the submission process, and then stewardship process after submitting and receiving an award, managing that relationship, which is a very important process in continuing our relationship with our funders. And Audrey primarily supports faculty on federal and state funding opportunities, as well as other opportunities, as Carlos went over. And so for any opportunity, Audrey and we have to coordinate ideas and projects across multiple campuses. And that's just a challenge in itself, being on a decentralized kind of ecosystem. On top of that, our the different application processes through the private foundations and the companies that we're engaging with, corporate foundations. Each of their processes differ for each of the competitions. So it's always a learning curve to read their RFPs and to interpret the instructions and eligibility. And then up until recently, our faculty and staff, they're becoming more aware of InfoReady. We're socializing it more. But it's been a transition, going from forwarding funding opportunities that we receive in our emails, in our email boxes, to driving faculty to the InfoReady site. Next slide. And so the original InfoReady function, we back in early 2023, the Office of Research and Innovation and then the Office of Institutional Advancement, where I was previously located, decided that we needed a system to communicate funding opportunities with our faculty and staff. We looked at InfoReady as a repository of private funding opportunities year after year, including limited submission opportunities, and as I mentioned, a way to communicate them in a centralized manner. There are so many different funding opportunities from all sorts of funders, so collecting them in one place has been really important from day one. We typically do not use the apply function for these opportunities that are listed in InfoReady, just because each of the funding opportunities have their own formal websites with their own instructions and processes, as I mentioned. So it's a way, so we really use it as a way to direct faculty to the corporate and foundation relations office, which is me, and then Audrey as a federal opportunity lead, so we can help guide them on eligibility requirements and submitting applications that best align with the funder's goals. So we're just an extra layer of support on the front end when faculty are able to get in touch with us. It also lets us strategize on funding applications and submissions year after year with the various private foundations and companies that we're engaging. We continue to work on our strategy for disseminating InfoReady link and the opportunities that exist within the website. At the moment, we continue to add opportunities as best as possible. There's a lot in the health sciences space. So we're focused on building this repository so faculty can go to our site as a resource, a reliable resource. We have it embedded on our research website, but we're beginning to regularly share this page with our faculty through our research council, through newsletters, through a quarterly newsletter, and email blasts. So we hope to continue sharing InfoReady and socializing it internally as a tool for funding and a major resource for our faculty, staff, and students. And we're excited to be discussing this today with you all. And that's it for me. And I'll turn it over to Audrey.
Thanks, Jordan, and thank you all for joining us today. So my role in the Office of Research is focused on research collaboration. And so as our division grows, we're working to build connections across our campuses, as we've said, across our schools, and then even programs and departments within those. But we also are making an effort to build connections across our system institutions. So Jordan elaborated on our different system institutions, but we are really trying to focus on bridging the two. So HSC, which is us, and then the other institutions. So last year, our leaders of HSC and Texas Tech University, TTU, decided to pilot a joint research day in Amarillo on the campus there for students, trainees, and faculty to have basically a research symposium, a day where they would all come together. All students and trainees were invited to participate. Let's see, so there's 4 HSC schools at the Amarillo campus, which are medicine, pharmacy, those are the biggest 2. And then there's also nursing and health professions. And then on the TTU side, they have our brand new, almost, it's been a couple years, but our School of Veterinary Medicine. And so it's right next door to our HSC campus. So we figured that, our leaders figured that would be a great way to combine forces. Prior to that, each school kind of handled their own research day differently. When we asked how many participated in each school and added them up, it was about 250 or more students in their individual events. And then we also recognized that within HSC, there was no formal research event yet for nursing or health professions. So we really wanted to include those students and get them experience with the process of doing a research symposium. So we decided this event would be a day-long event and have both poster and oral presentations. So our big need that we identified for InfoReady would be to collect a high volume of abstracts that we can have reviewed quickly in a centralized location for faculty reviewers, which in our case, they had 1 week to complete their reviews. And then on the back end, our admin committee had to compile the data that was collected from InfoReady from these submissions. So our questions that we wanted to answer were how to handle large participant interest in submissions, and then also who's going to manage the opportunity within InfoReady. InfoReady was also a great way that we could communicate with a large group of participants at one time. Next slide, please. So more about the symposium. In regards to InfoReady, we began planning and creating the opportunity process in January of this year, and the event was in mid-April. So our admin committee got together, we determined a timeline and the steps that we would need to take within InfoReady. Basically, our first piece was collecting abstract submissions to see who was interested in participating, and then also scoring those. So that went to the review process. And then once we scored and accepted a student, then they were allowed in the InfoReady system to help us by uploading their poster presentation if that's the option they selected. So let's see. I was kind of in charge of overseeing the whole process as a super admin within InfoReady, but then we had one person from each school be a co-admin on the opportunity so that they were able to access the entire opportunity, and we just oversaw that process for them. And then one of the big things that helped within the opportunity that we created was we had students select their school, and then also other things like tell us who your faculty advisor is, what is your category of your presentation or your abstract topic, and then even when you were available that day of the symposium, so that we could put them into different groups, morning and afternoon. So these were really important in InfoReady to be able to drill down data based on more specifically the school was like the most important one that we had. Some other things I want to point out, we had to consider in InfoReady giving access outside of our institution's domain to the Texas Tech domain, their students. So the way we have our InfoReady set up is with a single sign-on process, but that's specific to our institution's domain. So we had to make sure that they were able to access it as well from their side. They have their own InfoReady platform as well. So with that being said, we also had to determine that we weren't going to have two different opportunities at both institutions. We wanted to combine it into one centralized one. And so we housed that, being that we had 4 schools. Then we also, I think I mentioned I had given access to co-admins, one from each school. I also was able to give them individual tutorials to walk them through the process within InfoReady. So basically I just set up a Zoom call and share my screen and walk them step through step of how they would work within InfoReady for what we needed. Next slide, please. So the process, to start out with, each school promoted the opportunity within their own communication channels to their students and trainees using the same opportunity link. We also had in the opportunity itself the details. We had our contact emails listed for questions and assistance, so they knew right away who to contact. And also they could contact us via email, so they didn't have to do directly through an automated email from InfoReady. So we had 155 original abstract submissions to InfoReady, and then out of that we awarded 117. But I want to point out the term award was a little confusing for some students because, you know, they thought maybe they won an award by seeing that, but we had to communicate that first you'd get notice that your abstract was accepted. That allowed it to move to the review process. And then once it was scored and accepted as far as scoring high enough, then we would put it into award mode in InfoReady, meaning that they were ready to, or they were invited to present. So we had faculty, we had our co-admins from each school identify faculty members that they wanted to review the abstracts. The larger schools had more reviewers, but I am the one that assigned the reviewers in InfoReady. So for each abstract, I went in and assigned them. Some were done individually, depending on how many reviewers needed. Well, we had 2 reviewers for each abstract, but they were for that school specific from that student school. I communicated with those reviewers directly outside of InfoReady. I had to help them in many ways, just learn how to use the process. So I made an instruction document that I disseminated, and then to score, we used the InfoReady routing steps. One thing we noticed was reviewers were given an email notice for each review they got. So the ones that had a lot to review got a bunch of emails from me at one time. So that was a little, looking back now, I would definitely warn them like, hey, you're going to get a bunch of emails to let you know that you've been assigned these abstracts. Also, just want to point out in the scoring process, one thing that was found out is that we use like a rating score, a scale, number scale to have them score each category for our abstract review. There's a text box as well that corresponds to that number button that they select. And that something has to be entered in that text box in order for the reviewer to be able to submit their review. So that was one thing that was something we learned that we had to work around. We told them they could just enter the number they were selecting, but comments would definitely be helpful. So we suggested that as well. Let's see. So then we used the progress report feature once we were ready for the student to upload their poster so that we could have that printed. And so, like I said, we use those as a progress report feature. And then our admin who was doing the printing of the posters downloaded the files, the PDF files directly from InfoReady. One thing to point out, we also found that students couldn't swap out or update their files. So I had to go in the back end and delete that for them to allow them to submit it. So, working through all of these little things, we find these, glitches or hiccups that we have to work through. And so we did that and we made it. So we were very excited about that. And also I want to mention that the help desk and Ashley, our customer service rep, helped us tremendously along the way. And they're very fast, and we couldn't have done it in such an efficient way without that help from InfoReady directly. And then I was also able to schedule automatic reminders to remind students to upload their poster in InfoReady. And that was done as a feature of the progress report function. The only thing is you had to remember to do this for each abstract or each presentation submission. There was no way to batch action all of them at one time. So, but it was very helpful. So we weren't having to communicate with them a lot outside of InfoReady. Next slide, please. So I'll start out with lessons learned. Overall, I think some things for InfoReady that we learned. Next time for abstracts, one thing that might be helpful is to, there will be drafts. So basically a student didn't finish something and it just stayed in draft. And I think one thing, just to help educate and help support students would be to let those draft people know, like, hey, yours is incomplete. We did have an instance where someone came back and said, well, I submitted it and I guess something happened and it was still in draft. So we had to, figure out how to handle that situation. I also did my own direct emailing to participants outside of InfoReady, just troubleshooting, updating them, reminding them. But I think that might have partly been that, as you see on the first bullet, they didn't really know what InfoReady was. So some people thought when they'd get the automatic emails that it was spam and they didn't, reply to that. So I think ultimately next time with our symposium, we will communicate like, hey, this is the InfoReady process. This is what it looks like, explain the process. One thing I want to do next time is make some sort of like recorded video tutorial that we can walk them step by step through, and they can access it at any time. And then, so just the same thing, some sort of instruction document for them or something, and also explain those terms and the language that's used in InfoReady. Like I said, there was a student that, thought they had won an award because that's what it said in InfoReady, but we had day of judging of posters and awards given out at the actual event. So making sure they know the difference. I want to say our event success was achieved with InfoReady because this is how we selected our participants. On the day of, we had 113 presenters and we had over 300 attendees to the actual event. So we definitely think this was a success, this first year of having this cross-institutional, not only opportunity in InfoReady, but also just an event, a symposium, a research symposium. Next slide, please. I think, sorry, before Jordan had mentioned that overall some lessons that we've learned with using InfoReady, we want to continuously assess the needs of different departments and programs. So we had back in March, Ashley helped host a webinar for all of our faculty and staff to attend. And they learned about InfoReady and what it is and what it can do. And so I've had faculty reach out and staff and admin reach out and say, how can we use InfoReady for our school or our competition, for instance. And then we're starting, like Jordan said, to regularly promote InfoReady as a resource and direct them to the site and let them know, like, hey, this is where opportunities will be posted, or we can create a process for you to manage data or manage a competition in InfoReady. And so we also are just trying out new things. So our slide that you see for future uses, school-based seed grant funding applications. So sometimes those are open funding calls, sometimes they're limited within the school. And some of them choose to use review process within InfoReady, and some of them just simply want a place to collect the abstracts, and then they download the PDFs that you can do in InfoReady and disseminate them to their reviewers that way. So there's all kinds of different ways that we can use this. Another new one I'm excited about for my role in the office, I'm trying to compile a researcher database. So this is going to be information for all of our faculty. Obviously, this will be self-reported, so whoever chooses to do this opportunity in InfoReady. But basically, what it is, we're using it like a survey, and we're allowing for data collection and processing so that we can find out things like their research interests, how long they've been at the institution, or how long they've been a tenured professor, for instance. They could they could attach their CV, they could attach publications, or give us a Google Scholar link, that kind of thing. So this is gonna also help make our faculty aware of where and what InfoReady is. And then by utilizing it as like a survey, an opportunity in InfoReady, they will be able to practice how to even use it and what it looks like. So get them more comfortable with that. We just launched yesterday, I believe, or I guess it was June 1st. We launched a cross-institutional seed grant with Texas Tech for our new One Health Institute. This is something as well that we are working through and trying to really figure out how we can collaborate and align on this process. Another use that we've seen are for peer reviews, maybe something like manuscript composition, or something to where a faculty might need to have their abstract or their projects and ideas reviewed by their peers. So this is a way we could do that as well. And then other student competitions, we definitely want to do this again next year for our Amarillo Research Symposium, but also other campuses, other schools that might have similar events. We have a large, the GSBS, which is the graduate school here on the Lubbock campus, has a week-long research event every spring. So we plan next year to hopefully utilize what we've learned here and do their process, their abstract submission process in InfoReady next year. So that's pretty much my spiel. I want to say on behalf of Dr. Lance McMahon, our Senior Vice President for Research and Innovation, we really want to thank InfoReady for allowing us to share our experience, and then also for providing us continued opportunities like this one to learn from our peers. I look forward to the Peer Spotlight and all the other great webinars that InfoReady hosts. So Carlos, I think that's it.
Thanks so much, Audrey and Jordan. Lots of good info there to share. Appreciate you taking the time to put this together and discuss it with peers at other institutions. Everyone has to do this in some way on campus. It's always figuring out, okay, how are we going to showcase the student research, or how are we going to manage different types of processes? How are we going to make funding opportunities more visible to our faculty members? We don't want to lose out on something because someone didn't know it existed. So thanks for sharing all of that you're doing. We do have some questions that were submitted here in the QA tool. If anyone has questions, please submit them. And I think we're just going to get into it. You ready? I'm ready.
Yes.
Do it. So, first question, can you tell me a little bit more about your communication with the applicants? Right? How much of it were admins using InfoReady to email applicants versus outside, and what types of emails were they?
So I did not really utilize InfoReady. I know there are the automated, or not automated, but like templates that are already in there. And I know you can create your own kind of, you can edit those details how you need them. So I did send, so there would be like a reminder when the person submitted, and it would say, you will hear a decision by this date. There also was like an email reminder sent out through InfoReady about what was it, after the review process happened, that it was actually awarded. But I think I changed that language to say, like, yours has been accepted for presentation at the symposium. Your next step is to upload your poster if that's what they were choosing to present as. And then, like I had said in the progress report, there's a function that you can check to send a reminder. So like a week before I scheduled, and actually I think I scheduled maybe 2 reminders leading up to that deadline that you set in InfoReady. But then I also, on my own end, my own email inbox, communicated. So I would use InfoReady to synthesize the data. So like when I said we had them select their school, so I was able to download the data from InfoReady from the management tab and sort by school. So then I could email just those. I could pull from InfoReady the email addresses for the students from just that school. And then if I needed to email them outside, it might have been something like, gosh, I'm trying to think, something to do with scheduling, like, are you still available at this time? This will be when your presentation will be. Then it might have been more direct rather than to a group, but to a specific student, like, hey, your PDF is not opening correctly, or it's not the right format. We need you to submit it again. So I really, to answer the question, I guess I really didn't utilize InfoReady other than what was already, like the templates that are already there, and just tweaked those. But I also supplemented with my own emails. one thing with the automated emails is that it does go, if they respond directly to that automated email, the help desk has to send that to me directly. Like they can't use that in a way to communicate with me directly. So I made sure and put my email address and other admins' email address on all the email communications, the details within the opportunity, all of those things. Yeah, I hope that answers it.
No, thanks. Audrey, can I give you some information
Yeah,
that doesn't help you in the past, but it's going to help you in the future. So
right.
you began your process in April, and guess what we did in May?
I don't want to know.
We released a new feature that allows you to batch email communication to applicants at any time you want.
Awesome. That's so cool.
And you're like, well, that doesn't help me now, but next year, next cycle,
Yeah.
that will be helpful. And I've got more good news for you. Sometime in the fall,
Hmm.
there's going to be a batch progress report reminder
Nice.
option. So that,
Awesome.
going into each individual one from next cycle, it's going to be taken care of for you. So a few things there
Yeah.
from the lessons learned this time and new functionality. It'll save you a little bit of time, bring more into the system.
That's great.
That way, it's just a little more streamlined that way.
Yeah. And I mean, it wasn't, InfoReady is pretty simple to use. So it's not like it was taxing for me to do that necessarily, because it's not like I was having to create the email. Yeah, I had to tweak some language, but so it was still very helpful. But I think I also, maybe this is like a control kind of aspect, but I also wanted to make sure and communicate outside of InfoReady. But I love hearing y'all's updates, especially every time y'all release the new ones. I really like to know what they are, because they're usually solving some issue that we've come across.
Oh, great. I've got more good news. I'm not going to share it all right now.
Okay.
This is for later, but there's things we've always got things coming. So another question here. And you kind of alluded to this, and it relates to a question that was submitted. It says, are you able to pull a report of all the presenters and their information for later data analysis? You did a little bit of that to pull the emails and the schools, but could you elaborate on that in relation to the question?
Yeah, so the function in InfoReady when you want to download the data. So like once you're in your management tab and then you are in that opportunity, there's like an export data or some sort of, to that same effect, area that you go and you can tell it like how much data you want. And I would do this at different intervals throughout the process. So, that was something that I had to be cognizant of, that, I was getting updates. So I might need to see what I already had and then only add the new stuff. And so you have to work through those things. But I mean, it downloads it into an Excel if that's what you choose. And it's very easy to manipulate how you want it. I think, like I said, I had to decide what I wanted. So if you choose to get all the data, you're going to get all the data, and you got to decide what you're looking for. But that's a great thing as well, on the other end, because you might not think you need some piece of data and then you have it, so you do use it in some way. Uh, what was the question again? What else am I?
Sorry, I was muted.
The presenters.
Relating to information for later data analysis. Have you gotten to that phase yet where you're doing further data analysis on?
I mean, we did the analysis in the sense of once we needed to determine, so we knew who was going to present, then we used the data from InfoReady to determine where to place them. So what I mean by that is there was one question about what category is or what topic is your abstract. So we used the data dump, and then we did a new spreadsheet and pulled in information from InfoReady data to say, like, their category is this. We want to have this time slot, this session is only going to have topics relating to cancer, for instance. So we did use it in that way to kind of analyze what the student or trainee, what their topic was, or it was also important to spread out for schools, like not to have all School of Medicine be in one session. So we also were able to sort through that as well. I hope that answers the question, but there are many ways that you can utilize the data that's given to you, which is great. Like I said, it gives you a lot. I mean, basically anything you're asking for when someone is applying in your opportunity, it will spit that out for you.
Thanks, Audrey. Here's another question about abstracts.
Mhm.
Were you able to create a book of abstracts using InfoReady?
So yes, what we did, one person was tasked with basically when we data dumped, and so we had in our opportunity a text box where they copied and pasted their abstract, and we limited it to 250 words and all that stuff. So when you data mine it, one of the columns, I guess, is abstract, and then she went in for each one and she basically copied and pasted that into her Word document where she compiled the abstract book. So it is a little like there was no way to download just abstracts into a PDF, if that makes sense. We did have to use like the feature where we're downloading the data that was put into InfoReady and then using that. It wasn't a hard process, I will tell you. Like it was not hard for her to do. It just took a little time. But rather than having them upload their abstract as a attachment, which would have taken even longer, we just had them insert it, copy and paste it as a text box, and I think that helped with the abstract book compiling.
Right. Yeah. There's I mean, in the system, there's a batch PDF feature,
Yes.
and you can download the individual application packets,
Yes.
but as a field, it's still in there with the rest of the information, so you have to parse it out. So
Right.
yeah.
And I did utilize that feature. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I can't remember why, but I did utilize that feature. However, the working from an Excel was easier because
Right. You can just copy, like,
oh, here's why I wanted to use it. It was because I was hoping that there was a way that our admin who was handling the printing of the posters, so we used Progress Report for them to upload their posters. I was hoping there was a way that she could download, batch them into one PDF, download them all instead of having to go into each person's opportunity and download them from there. But it it didn't work the way we wanted. So because it would give you like a cover page, and it would basically give you the whole, what you just said, it would give you all that information when all she was really looking for was the PDF. I mean, I guess if you think about it, you could go into Adobe software and just delete those pages. I didn't think about that until just now, but if you have that function to manipulate the downloaded PDF, then you could do it that way. But
there's a little more tailoring involved, though.
what is that?
There's a little more curating of that content involved. Yeah. So another question. Oh, well, actually, another thing. There's there's a, if you have other questions related, for anyone who's on the call, if you have questions about a book of abstracts, there's another group that uses InfoReady that has an add-on that actually moves the data around for you. You don't have that, but I'll gladly share the information, and they and send you a link to their website too, so you can see what it looks like. It's pretty cool to see what it's doing. But more questions here. I think the answer to this is no, but you might know better than me. Is there any kind of interface for ScholarWorks for abstract uploads?
I'm not aware.
No, we don't have that. We do have integrations available, but we've never done an integration with ScholarWorks to do that kind of stuff. But I did want to get that answered. Switching gears, reviewers. You talked about reviewers.
Mhm.
Could you tell us a little bit more about the process of selecting reviewers, pairing them, and communicating with them?
So I was given names by the co-admins, so the representative from each school. I was given names of who their reviewers were. Then within the manage tab in the opportunity, I had to sort by school. Then I had to select the student or their submission. And then I had to assign the reviewers, and I would enter in their email, and then, that's the process they would take. They'd get a notification that you need to go review this. They'd sign on with for us anyways, their single sign-on process. And they would do the rating scale where it was numbered, enter any comments in, and we had 2 reviewers for each abstract. Trying to think what else. We did have to wear like a disclosure to say, if you worked with this student on this project, please let us know and we'll reassign you. We tried to also, I downloaded the data and tried to, so I isolated each school. So all the abstracts from School of Medicine, which was the biggest, I, found out how many there were. And then we tried to evenly distribute to the reviewers. So I think honestly in that school, I think each reviewer had like 12 to 15, which, I mean, that sounds like a lot. And it is a little bit of a time commitment for them, but they're only reviewing the 250 word abstract. Like they're just saying that it's meeting the level, the score, the level of, yes, they can present. There were some that did not meet that threshold, and they were asked to revise, or they were asked to, if they had selected oral presentation, they were asked if they could do, or they were told they could do a poster instead because they didn't score high enough. I think that's the answer to that question, but we really just tried to, for sure, have 2 reviewers for each abstract, and then also isolate the schools to say like, hey, there's X number for this school, like we want to try to even it out. And then you might have to shuffle around with, like, you had assigned reviewer A, but they have like bias, or they can't be on that review, so we'd have to swap them out. So I kind of made my own little spreadsheet with the data and kind of did a chart of, like, it would have the name and the abstract, and then I would have the reviewers. But there are some great data tools in InfoReady specific to reviewers. So you can download like all the scores, you can download all the assignments, like who was assigned what, and you can see who has completed, who hasn't. Like that was really helpful.
Great, no, that's wonderful to hear. It's when you can see it all up front and kind of take action from there, sure beats digging through a bunch of emails and whatnot.
Right.
I'm going to switch gears a little bit and ask Jordan a question, because I've been neglecting Jordan, so apologies. Jordan, you've been centralizing opportunities, and how has communicating and socializing this centralization, I guess, impacted the engagement with the opportunities? Are you seeing more support requests coming in? Are you seeing faculty members apply more to these external opportunities?
Well, I will say, it's taken us some time, I would say, in these past 2 years to kind of figure out where the direction that we want to take, sharing opportunities through InfoReady. So, maybe like a year ago, we enlisted our office's sponsored programs, to start uploading opportunities that they see, because we had another website that we were putting. We have on our website opportunities listed. So we didn't want to duplicate efforts. So we were making sure that the office's sponsored programs was at least putting private foundation opportunities onto InfoReady. And then it really wasn't until recently that we've started socializing it internally. I think just, Audrey, has been here about a year now, and I've been here about 2 years at the institution. So, understanding the use of InfoReady has taken us some time on top of administering grant opportunities and our daily work. So with that being said, we held that internal kind of info session about a couple or a few months ago, where we finally really presented it to our faculty and they got to ask their questions, and now we're really rolling out the strategy of dissemination. So like I mentioned, we're moving kind of slow with this, but it's been a great resource. Audrey, do you have anything to add on that?
I mean, since that webinar or info demo or whatever, we've had one school really utilize, and they've had 3 opportunity competitions for their seed grant funding. Like I said, with what was really cool was our new One Health Institute deciding to collaborate. So that's in conjunction with TTU, collaborate and host that seed grant opportunity in InfoReady. Even though this is the first seed grant they've ever given or put out. So there's that. So I think, yes, to Jordan's point, like, we have been getting some traction. So really we just try to say, hey, if you have an idea, let us know and we can walk through it and see if there's a way. And then we work with them step by step. So them being the admins, we will work with them to figure out the process, what it looks like in InfoReady, and just be there walking them through it throughout.
And during this time, I've also experimented with submitting the application through InfoReady, and being notified when there was an application submitted for a particular opportunity. There was no problem with it. It was just like going through email, I would say. I think I can foresee us using, just like Audrey's been mentioning with the other school admins, they're using them for internal seed grants, where there may be multiple internal reviewers that can be assigned. For us, we're still, our internal review committees are very fluid. So it's we're still working out how we're going to use the apply function internal through InfoReady as well.
Right. Well, thanks for sharing. We're here to help you as you're figuring it out, for sure. We're at the top of the hour, and I want to close out the webinar for people who have to go. but I did want to ask one more question. So I'm going to do a quick close, and then I'm going to continue for like two or three more minutes, if it's okay with everyone. Thanks to our panelists for Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center for sharing their processes, sharing their insights with us and with everyone on the call. I always find these instructive. Higher ed, such a great community because everyone does like sharing best practices, and it helps all of us. If you're not using InfoReady, you have more questions, please contact Max Dinerman, our Director of Sales. If you already have InfoReady and you want to know more about how you can use InfoReady for a variety of processes, feel free to contact myself or the support team, and that contact information is there. So for all of you that have to go, thanks so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. Now, one last question for you, Jordan. You mentioned that some schools don't have dedicated support. So you become the dedicated support.
Yes.
And other schools do have dedicated support. So there's two tracks here. Is it easier or harder to support the schools that don't have their own dedicated support? Because they also have their own processes in place as well.
Well, something that we haven't mentioned, everything that goes through InfoReady also goes through our Office of Sponsored Programs in a different system in Cayuse. So really it's that admin support on the different campuses that becomes instrumental in Cayuse at that level. Yeah, so it's easier when there's admin support within the various departments because of that internal process that has to go through Office of Sponsored Programs.
Well, thanks for sharing. The reason I was asking is sometimes you could butt heads, step on toes if there's something already in.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, Audrey and I were bringing opportunities that faculty didn't know existed. Many faculty, in their niche spaces within health sciences know where to look for funding opportunities. Some junior faculty don't. And then there are, of course, opportunities that are new, relationships that are new that we want to share with all faculty. And then, from my perspective as a corporate and foundation relations, I'm having conversations about criteria and aligning interests that I may hear and then have to communicate with our faculty and the admins. Private foundation opportunities are a little more broad and not as complicated applications as like an NIH federal grant opportunity. And those admins and those departments, they're key to those. So we really are kind of serving a different function at this stage with providing opportunities, reading eligibility, helping kind of formulate ideas and align interest, and then the admin kind of come in later. So
you're getting upstream, just
yes.
raising awareness as much as and trying to here's your research area, here's something that you might like that might fit what you're doing.
Well, and I know a lot of CFR people know this, corporate and foundations relations. When you're applying to a foundation, often they require 501c3 to apply to the foundation. So that is a technical kind of requirement that I need to be brought in early on so I can support that function. And that's very different than than what faculty are used to when it comes to federal funding and state funding opportunities, even corporate foundations. Yeah, most foundations require 501c3 status, and that lives at our Texas Tech system, not in the Health Sciences Center. So there's lots of coordination from my end when it comes to that.
I bet that sounds a lot of, you know, someone comes to you and then you have to engage with a bunch of other stakeholders in the process to be able to connect the dots. And yeah, sounds like a lot of coordination.
Yeah, so it's very nice to have this central repository of funding. So
well, thanks for sharing the bonus material here, right? This is for everyone who's able to stay. We got a little bonus material. Once again, I want to thank our presenters, Audrey De Leon and Jordan Neighbors, for your time today and sharing your insights and experiences with everyone who's on the webinar today. I also want to thank everyone who joined. Really appreciate your time. This is only 2 endings, not 3 endings like Lord of the Rings. We're not going to go into another couple bonus questions. And so have a good week, everyone. If you have questions for us, please contact us. There's that contact information on screen. There's also the survey after the webinar if you want to have some additional questions for us and want to provide feedback on the webinar as well. Thanks so much for your time and have a great day.
Thank y'all.
Thanks.
thanks.